Adam, thank you so much for joining for the second time on the podcast. It seems that it wasn't terrible the first time, so that you still feel comfortable to come the second time in this new office, because the last time was on our previous office, um, not far away. I will pass the introduction, because you've done your background. Why did you join Fireblocks in the first place? Or why did you fall into the crypto rabbit hole? But maybe um, can you again quickly introduce your role at Fireblocks and what have been exciting the past year?
Absolutely. And thank you, and for Kiln, for having in this not so humble room. Pretty amazing. Each office gets better than the next. So my name is Adam Levine. I am the SVP of Corporate Development and Partnerships at Fireblocks, and last year also became the CEO of the Fireblocks Trust Company. So this year has been dynamic already for only a few months in, and seeing some of the shifts, not just, but definitely in part because of the change in the federal government in the US, we're seeing the ripples across the globe. And so things around payments have been heating up. Cross-border payments we're really excited about. We could talk more there. A lot on the partnership side, and then increasingly spending time on our new trust company, which has been a good challenge and opportunity for us to help support the market.
And you mentioned the trust. I think you announced it in May last year, so it's been close to a year now. It's the first time Fireblocks have a license and around the world, and why is that? And can you explain why you did it in the first place?
Yeah, sure. So we made some noise about it early last year and got the official green light towards the end of last summer from the New York Department of Financial Services, or NYDFS. So first, what it is, and then we'll talk about why we did it. So we launched a limited purpose trust company, also known as a qualified custodian. It's the ultimate dog fooding, as we're building it on Fireblocks technology. So focused on what Fireblocks is best at, safely securing your assets and helping you grow your business from there. In the US in particular, we were speaking to prospects and clients that were saying some version of, we love your tech, we get it, but we want or need a custodian just because of who we are in the market, our stakeholders, our position. And for a lot of obvious reasons, there were not a lot of options in the market. We're really proud of some of our local partners like BNY Mellon, but not everyone is an appropriate client for someone like BNY Mellon, or the types of assets they're looking to support. And so for us, we thought it was the right thing to do to step up in the market and go to New York, where we're located, which we thought was one of the more challenging regulators that was still open for this. We didn't really want to do forum shopping. And so we got the approval to launch our services. And the services are focused on cold storage, so cold custody, and allowing our clients to still get the best of Fireblocks, but wrapped in a custodian. So that's been the motivation, and really excited about it. We're starting it off, as we do with many things at Fireblocks, slowly, thoughtfully, not just going out to the market and seeing how it's going to work. Excuse me a sec. And so we took the approach of working with design partners, a handful of clients that we thought would be the right ones, that had the expectations of what they knew they would get from a custodian of Fireblocks, and also helping us design where the path they want to go. In the second half of this year, we're going to open it up. So right now, we have the 5 clients signed and actively using the service, and a growing wait list, which is both exciting and frustrating as a CEO to know that you have demand. And but we want to make sure that we do this in a methodical way. So it's been good.
And you mentioned BNY that might list one or two coins, but can you maybe expand a little bit more how vast is going to be the offering on the trust, and as well, how do you see the first type of clients onboarding on the platform?
Yeah. So our approach for the trust is, because it's cold storage, it's not something that you're going to be actively trading and leverage the Fireblocks trust. And we see many clients that still want to use our wallet infrastructure and then leave some assets on the Fireblocks trust as well. And so that's a common use case, or some VCs and RIAs that are long-term investors. So the first few clients, we have 3 very well-known VCs, one market maker that's looking to leverage us, and then actually a gaming company using us for treasury management. Some of the interesting things, the market maker starting with us, and we're going to be expanding later this year to provide our Fireblocks off-exchange solution, the collateral vault account. But instead of just the pure tech solution, which we have today with Fireblocks on the SaaS side, we're going to have that collateral vault account as a custody account. So the Fireblocks Trust will be able to be in the middle of that off-exchange, providing even additional credit and counterparty risk mitigation, which is great. On the other side, the VCs, some of them are investing more blue chip assets, your Bitcoin, your Ethereum. They're looking to stake the Ethereum, but many of them are investing in a wide variety of assets. And when they come to us, they're saying, look, the Fireblocks on the wallet side, we know supports it. Can the custodian do it? And by and large, the answer is going to be yes. So there's many out there with competing of whose list is longer of asset support. That's not the game we're looking to play. Really focusing on client demand, especially with these design partners. We're talking to them about which assets they want. And some of them are top 10 assets and some are numbered like 175 on the market cap list, but that's what's important to them. So for the Fireblocks Trust, we are able to self-certify. We go through a very critical risk assessment of each individual asset to determine the type of risks that's important for a trust to think about. It's a different approach than you would on the SaaS side. And then we're able to self-certify when we get the approval through the proper governance process. So that seems to be well received. And later this quarter, we're actually going to have our first TGE support. So one of our design partners is investing in a new protocol based on the Cosmos SDK. And they've come to us specifically because they know they can get that support day one. And then day two will be the staking of that asset, which we know we're talking to you guys about.
Right. And can you come back? You start to mention it a bit, but can you come back on how it changes Fireblocks operations from being the tech provider to being like a costly regulated player? How does it change your operations day to day and weekends?
Yeah. So the first is Fireblocks' primary focus continues to be on our technology. 99.5% of our employees are focused on the things that we're well known for, right? The wallet infrastructure, the Fireblocks network, facilitating payments and security, right? Helping give our clients the ability to feel a bit safer than if they use an alternative. None of those employees have shifted their focus. The Fireblocks Trust Company is a small part and in a lot of ways separate from the rest of Fireblocks. So we have our own dedicated operations team, dedicated product, dedicated engineering. Obviously, they're talking with the rest of the Fireblocks team, but it's very much ring-fenced, something you'd expect of a regulated entity. Now, with that said, it's frustrating because Fireblocks, although we're very secure and thoughtful as a tech company, we move at the speed as a tech company. Fireblocks Trust still has to move at the pace that's as quick as possible. But in a regulated environment, there's a lot more process that we need to follow. Can be frustrating. Those of us that have the brain damage of a decade plus in financial services know what to expect. And it's been helpful in that we have a separate board with independent board members ensuring that we have the right governance. But some of the things we think about on the tech side, we have 24/7 support. We have a SOP team that's monitoring the world nonstop. That doesn't change. On the Fireblocks Trust side, when it comes to support, that means being able to sign transactions. And right now with cold storage, we're starting it where it's really just business hours, US East Coast business hours that we're providing support. And now we're thinking about things into next year of how do we get to nights? How do we get to weekends? In the crypto market, assets can drop 10 or 20%, as we saw a few days ago. And sometimes our clients need to move assets quickly. And so now we're working with the design partners and thinking through the implications of that going forward.
That's exciting. And you mentioned the VCs that are in market makers. One of them that are onboarding on platform. What about the other traditional financial players, the banks, the asset managers, the traditional hedge funds? That seems to have an increasing interest in digital assets since the new political environment in the US.
Yeah, I think there's been a combination of things. First, in the US, the asset managers have been moving in a much more meaningful way. Look at BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, Wisdom Tree with bringing financial instruments on chain, right? It's not a crypto story anymore. It's increasingly about traditional financial assets moving on chain. And then you look at companies like Circle that's issuing stablecoins, PayPal, Paxos, all of them have been proving to the market that the story that many of us believe of the future of finance moving on chain is legitimate. But the banks, because of how the federal government in the US last year was treating the industry, really had trepidation. And when I traveled globally, they were constantly asking, hey, when will the US banks move? Not because they're regulated by the Federal Reserve when you're in Sydney or Singapore or Frankfurt, but they knew that the real movement with the New York and US based banks was going to impede their growth. With SAB 121 repealed, with Operation Choke Point removed, now the global banking community is really moving in a meaningful way. And it's really all about thinking about how they're going to provide fundamental services, starting with custody, moving on to payments, thinking about bringing more assets on chain. Across the globe, we're talking to leading banks, regional banks that are really getting thoughtful with what their strategy is, making decisions. And in some markets, they've been moving ahead. I was just down in Brazil speaking to some of the biggest banks 3 weeks ago, and they're really far advanced with, again, not necessarily a crypto story, but because of the change in the administration in the US, the banks are going to be here pretty soon, I think.
Right. And I was in Brazil as well months ago, and we collaborate together on with some of these banks already. So I can testify. And in Brazil, for example, one of the use case that banks loves are stablecoins and payments, because of the inflationary nature of the reals. But there's other jurisdiction which it happens, and usually it happens on the Fireblocks platform where you have massive volume of stablecoin moving in and out. So can you explain a little bit how Fireblocks as a platform is tackling this use case? And yeah, what do you have moving forward?
Absolutely. So there's two parts to it: how we think about stablecoins and payments. For me, payments is really exciting, and at Firebox, it's probably the most important thing we're focused on this year. So I spent 8 years at a foreign exchange settlement bank, really getting to understand correspondent banking and the types of risks around FX. But at the same time, the industry settles everything 2 days after trading, which means if you trade on a Thursday, you're waiting the full weekend, so you actually get settlement. And the thought of moving to T+1 uh, makes people start to shake. And then when you look at what we're able to do with stablecoin payments, where in less than 10 minutes, you're able to move money cross-border, it's amazing. And so in so many markets, it may not be in Western Europe or in the US where you're able to move money relatively easily. But when it comes to emerging markets and cross-border, the payments use case is far and away the one that we're seeing the most excitement and actual volume of clients. I feel really good when you talk about examples like Brazil or maybe even Argentina, where the Argentines joke that the Argentine peso is the original shitcoin, and they want access to be able to mitigate the risk of their currency, and they want to transact in stablecoins. We're talking to global importers that or exporters that need to distribute funds to vendors globally, to their employees globally, and doing that in some version of a US dollar stablecoin is their preferred method. It's better for the vendors, it's better for their employees, and the velocity of funds is just so much greater when you're using stablecoin. And so, last year, Stripe bought Bridge. It was just a good boost for the entire industry to see.
And Bridge was using Fireblocks, and
They are a client and a partner. Absolutely. And it's just one example. There's so many of our clients that are providing the on-off ramps and helping facilitate stablecoin payments. I think the growth has been great, but it's going to feel trivial 3 years from now how much we're doing today because of the amount of growth we're expecting.
and one aspect of what stablecoin is mm, one aspect of stablecoin is essentially they're making capital markets much more efficient and 24/7. Um, and one aspect that Fireblocks has been also tackling is tokenization. So can you explain what have you been doing in tokenization, looking also at these asset managers that are starting to tokenize T-bills or maybe other securities in the future? How can the Fireblocks platform with stablecoins help capital markets just moving on chain, being more innovative and efficient?
Yeah. So if you think about Fireblocks history, we've done 2 acquisitions over the last 3.5 years. One of them was a payments company, and one of them was a company focused on tokenization. Both meant to bolster the efforts and the focus there. And it's all about
Payment companies, I think, in Israel, and Blockful was the tokenization company
in Australia.
in Australia.
Yes, they're in Melbourne, just to make the time zones challenging. But for us, it's all about bringing finance on chain. And part of the benefit is moving assets quicker, right? The velocity of funds, the velocity of financial assets is really important, whether it's trying to get better returns or mitigate risk. So we created a tokenization engine. It allows you to work with our smart contracts from partners, or bring your own smart contract, and to mint and burn the assets that you want. We've worked with some of the largest players in the market on very boring things like money markets and bonds, but those are foundational. And we've worked on some more of the esoteric assets. Most recently, someone came to us to talk about tokenizing investment grade wine. Think of better things to do with wine, but the full range from bonds that
Like in a French player, right? That came to you.
No, it's actually in the UK, but probably French wine is mine. I don't think there's any investment grade British wine quite yet.
I don't think as well.
They're working on it. But in any event, what we're seeing now is these traditional asset managers lead the way, but increasingly more assets becoming tokenized. One of our clients in Brazil has a retail-facing app where they are tokenizing private debt denominated in the US dollar, and it gives the local Brazilian an opportunity to invest fractional amounts in these tokenized bonds. It was the most recent use case that I've seen, but I like those stories. I think it's a great way to get an investment opportunity for someone that before tokenization didn't really have access to that.
Right. One other major feature that you released on the platform is native on-chain swap. Can you talk a little bit about that, and can you explain why it's important for Fireblocks customers?
Yeah. Very simple, like clients are looking to transact, right? They're not all just buy, sell, hold on their asset. They need to be able to move from one asset to another. And part of what Fireblocks is able to do is to provide a level of security that becomes efficiency. So you think about it from the risk perspective, but that helps unlock business. So being able to add swaps was just the latest of what we've been able to do to help facilitate clients. And doing that all through the Fireblocks UI has proven initially to be successful. Clients get really excited about that.
Right. Can you share other exciting features that you're working on
Yeah.
natively from the Fireblocks UI?
So look, we added staking with you amongst others, and there's I think a lot more on the staking side that will be coming from Fireblocks, especially as we look at other assets. Thinking around in DeFi and how we could provide not just staking and not just swaps, but there's probably more there. The other aspect that we're spending a lot of time is you think about stablecoins and you think about tokenization, but you layer that in with the variety of protocols that are out there. And we can make the argument about why you should stick with EVM or why EVM is no longer the best. And there's options like Solana or newer players like Sui and Aptos. But the better approach is thinking about interoperability. And so Fireblocks is working with others in the market, and announcements coming out hopefully soon that will explain how, when you're tokenizing an asset, think natively day one when you tokenize it, how to work with the right protocol so that your tokenized asset has that interoperability capability. Right now, you see where there's pools of liquidity that are locked in some part by the type of protocol or which protocol you've tokenized the assets on. And of course, there's different bridging solutions, and unfortunately, we've seen some security issues there. But I think this is an area that will really help unlock a lot of value and make the industry just much more efficient, but focused on it from the security perspective.
Interesting. And have Fireblocks worked on a specific product through their platform or in collaboration with other leaders in the space?
Yeah, more the latter. I'd love to share the names, but my marketing team will never let me do another podcast if we do. But in general, the Fireblocks approach is there's some things that it's best to partner with and use the services of those that are leading in the area that's outside of our gift to solve. And so we've done this in a variety of ways. We've done this with staking, with AML KYT, and interoperability will be another example where we're going to work with the leading institutions and make sure we do it in the best way for the market.
Right. We'll have to do a third episode, maybe in the next office, so that you can share a little bit more about this partnership.
The only thing fancier might be Versailles, but
Yeah, maybe the next one is in Versailles, actually, the Galerie des Glaces, right? It's a Rendez-Vous taken. One major event that happened in the security world the past weeks was the Bybit hack. And it was the largest hack ever in crypto, and it had a major impact on how all of the institutions and companies in the space, including Kiln, are looking at security and security measures. How Fireblocks are being reacting to it, and yeah, how does it change your operations, your business, and the way you do things?
We take every hack very seriously. It's well documented, but there was no aspect of Fireblocks that was being leveraged with the hack. But that doesn't mean that we let our guard down or think about it differently. And it starts with it's bad for the industry, right? Every hack for the industry is bad. There are many others out there with the version of "I told you so" marketing that came out as soon as possible. That's not the right approach, and not what Fireblocks did. So a few things. One, I mentioned before, our SOC, our security team is monitoring all sorts of threats beyond just Fireblocks, but looking at our clients as well, 24/7. Quite literally looking at that with a good understanding of nation state attacks and things we need to be mindful of. And so that continued after the Bybit was going on, before the Bybit, and we really do have an amazing security team. And the
And,
second
that was at the core of Fireblocks DNA, and even Michael as a founder was a security expert
Yes.
before founding Fireblocks. So yeah, that's definitely something that stands you apart from the rest of the market.
It's absolutely right. It's the core DNA, and I joke with our CISO, he works for 3 founders that all have cybersecurity backgrounds. So it's hard enough to be a CISO, but having 3 bosses that know exactly what you're talking about is both a
No
blessing and
pressure.
a curse. Yeah. But, the next thing is, I could tell you at the executive level, there was a reach out to Bybit to see if we could be helpful in any way, because again, it's bad for the industry. We had an all hands soon after where Michael addressed the entire company, and we explained exactly what we knew. With reinforcement, we do a lot of training about the importance of staying vigilant and social engineering attacks, which was part of how the Bybit hack happened.
Right.
We proactively, our security team tortures us with attempting to get us to fall for phishing attacks exactly because of this. And right after the Bybit, our security team tested us to make sure that we were staying vigilant as well. But a very detailed explanation of our understanding of what happened, why we knew that had they been using Fireblocks, there'd be a different issue. Or say it differently, had they been using Fireblocks, this would not have happened. And we're able to explain to our colleagues exactly why. Taking a very different approach than what Bybit was using with their safe wallets approach and smart contracts only. Um, and going forward, we spent a lot of time in the market with our security product leads, just articulating exactly how Fireblocks would have withstood those examples, how Fireblocks is there to help. It's not meant as an "I told you so" at all, but very much important that we need to, as an industry, keep security standards very, very high. Fireblocks is going to continue to pride itself on being the top level of security and standards, and making sure we're out there educating the market. So when it comes time to making decisions, whether they choose Fireblocks or an alternative solution, that they're thinking about the right type of issues to prevent the next Bybit from happening.
Right. And we've seen, I was following the Fireblocks security team communication on the topic, and I think it was very insightful. Definitely great from the Fireblocks team and Fireblocks as a company to be as transparent and in trying to have like upgrade security standards for the market ahead, because essentially we'll need to prevent these acts in the future. Otherwise, the financial market won't move on chain.
Exactly right.
Um, regarding to that, actually, the financial market moving on chain, this past year has been, a lot of ups, some downs, in the crypto digital asset markets. What are you excited about, and what lessons do you gather from the past year?
Yeah. So one of the trends we've continued to notice is that when there's a crypto bull market, adoption of stablecoin increases, right, for obvious reasons. But when there's a bear market, the usage of stablecoin tends to stay relatively flat, doesn't follow them one for one.
To be frank, even increase, right? Like the past 2 months, stablecoin supply has been continuing increasing. So it's very, very impressive to see, right?
Exactly right. And so the messaging and the belief that the future of finance is on chain increasingly is not a theory, but you're seeing it in reality.
Right.
These are the things we're really excited about. And so I think we're going to see from the industry payments get adopted much broader, cross-border payments. And we're speaking to payment service providers that in the past were skeptical. And now they're saying, I just need to move assets quicker. I think stablecoins can do that. Let's have a chat. They're not looking for a digital asset play. They're trying to achieve the business outcome of moving assets faster and in a safe way. That's a really exciting story. So we're going to see a lot more of that. We'll probably see,
And you have dozens of them on the platform, right? PSPs, for example.
we do have dozens. We have over 250 payments companies, and it starts with the crypto native, but increasingly the conversations and the use cases are with payment service providers that are brand names that many of us would know. We're going to see a proliferation of stablecoins in addition to Tether and USDC probably continue their market position. But there's a lot of initiatives there, and Fireblocks will actively support many of those and work with banks. We did a recent stablecoin project with Bank Colombia as an example. We're going to see a lot more of those where traditional banks are looking to use stablecoins and tokenized assets to just address their regular business needs. These are things that are exciting. I've been telling my team that 25 will probably be the year of really big decisions. We may not get any massive use cases that come out and shift the market. But as we all know, with banks, they move slowly. They need to have the right budget, decisions, support. But when they move, it's quite influential. So I think many of them were planning and had their little digital asset teams in the past. Now we're seeing that at very senior level tweets from CEOs indicating their plans based on the conversations we're having with those leading banks. Those decisions will be made in the upcoming months.
See, interesting. You think that we'll see the results of these decisions maybe in a couple of years, 2, 3, 5 years, as these banks take time to move, but the decisions are being taken in a couple of months.
Yeah, I think the impact, right, we won't see for a little bit of time. But the decisions are definitely being made now. They're laying with the foundation of what they need for their wallet infrastructure, what type of business they want to do. Some of them will provide a crypto play, but many of them, crypto is really not the story. And for me, that's exciting, not because crypto is bad, obviously. Crypto has tremendous opportunity and benefits. But when you see these traditional players buy into that vision of what the future of finance looks like, that's really important for the entire industry, in addition to the crypto story.
That's exciting. Thank you, Adam,
Yeah.
for being on the podcast.
Of course.
Second episode. So my mother that is listening could be very happy to see you again. And yeah, I hope we will have a third iteration as you announced this collaboration for interoperability on blockchains. But thank you again for coming.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure being here. Really love working with Kiln, and the partnership's really important to us. So thank you for your support.
Thanks.